Kלים Perik Chof Mishnah Aleph. Before we start the Perik, let's just do a little bit of a Hakdama here, going back to some of the Mishnayos we did previously. We are now going to be dealing with Kלים which have a dual function. A function of Kibble, the main function, which are Kli Eitz. We're talking about Kli Eitz and Kli Or, where the Makabel Tumah, if they have a base Kibble. Plus they have a function of Yeshiva. They're Roy le Medris, Roy the Mishkav and Moshev, and therefore they can be Makabel Tumas Medris. We've identified two categories of such Kלים. We're now going to introduce a third category. Let's just recap. The first category was when the primary function has a function of Kibble. The function of Yeshiva disturbs the function of Kibble, i.e. the Keli is able to be sat on. However, if you do sit on it, you're not able to use the main function. For instance, a box where the lid is on top, you can sit on it, but if you want to use the main function of the box, i.e. the kibble, you've actually got to stand up and open the lid. Because you cannot do both functions together, therefore we have the rule of something where you say Amoid v'nasa malachtenu. The function of medris is completely bottle. It's just got the function of kibble and makabel tumas meis. That's category A. Category B is where you have two functions which do work together. You have a box where the Pesach is on the side. You can sit on it, and you can also, while you're sitting on it, you can also use it to take things in and out of the box. Therefore, it has both functions, and therefore the keli is makabel tumas meis and sheretz, and also tumas medris. And it's on that category where we had the machloikus. What happens if the base kibble becomes bottle? Does the medris also become bottle? That was the machloikus between Rameh and the Chachamim in the previous Mishnahs. This Perik is now going to introduce the first bit of this Mishnah, a category 3, where you have two functions again, a kibble and a medris. But here, one isn't secondary to the other. They are both as equal, both as important as each other. We don't have a primary and a secondary function. These cases, says the Mishnah, korim v'aksosos, cushions and quilt covers, these are made out of leather. They have a base kibble. You put feathers and shmatters inside to fill them up. That's the kibble. You also lie on them. Sakin and matzufin, sakin are sacks. Matzufin are big industrial bags used to transport goods. On ships, for instance, shnif chasu harelu tmei medris. That means, although we said in the previous Mishnah, the category 2, when a keli as the ikka is a kli kibble, when the kibble breaks, the secondary function of medris also becomes bottle. Here, no. The two functions are equal. You have a function of kibble and a function of medris. And shnif chasu, where the function of kibble breaks, that doesn't matter. The function of medris of yeshiva is so choshuv that it just continues, and there is no machloikas about this. Already to medris, as before, these things are royal shchiva. The second function is still, you can still do the second function, and therefore it continues, and the whole thing is makabel tumah. Now we go back to category 2, where we have two functions, the medris and the kibble, but the kibble is the main one, and the medris is secondary. And the Mishnah is telling us in the following list of kelim, these two functions, the secondary function of medris is only there if the kli has a certain size. In other words, if it doesn't have the size, you've only got your kli kibble. If it has this, and if it's only a kli kibble, means that it's not royally shchiva v'yeshiva, and if a zov sits on it without touching it, it doesn't actually become tomei. If, however, it's got the particular shiurim which we're going to list in the Mishnah, then the Mishnah is telling you these shiurim make the keli big enough that now it is able to also serve as a medris, as for yeshiva and shchiva, and therefore it's makabel tumas meis and tumas medris. Says the Mishnah, klusta arba kabin. Klusta is a big bag used putting around the neck of an animal when it wants to feed. It's primarily a kli kibble. You put the food in it. However, you take it off sometimes and you sit on it. Says the Mishnah, arba kabin. If it's big enough to hold arba kabin, then it's big enough to serve as a little mattress for sleeping on, and therefore it's makabel tumas mes and tumas medris. Similarly, in the case of turmal, which is the leather satchel we mentioned before, chameshes kabin, the shear is 5 kabin. Hakrisis sa'ah. Krisis is a small sack. The shear is a sa'ah. If it has the shear, then it's got two functions. Hachemes shall shivas kabin. We had the chemes before, which is a leather water bottle. If it's big enough to hold 7 kav, it's not only does it have a function of kibble, it has also a function of shechiva. Rabbi Yehuda, he adds 2 more, after ravtzol or rivtzol, the hamizvada. That's where the Ivrit words mizvada comes from. But the Nura tells rivtzol is a smaller chemes, and mizvada is again some sort of enormous satchel used by travelers to carry all their stuff, literally a suitcase. In these 2 cases, kol shein, no matter what size they are, they're always ro'oi l'shchiva, apart from their primary function of kibble, says the Mishnah, rei eru tmei medris, they're also tmei medris with the kibble. And here we go back to the machlokas we had before the end of Perek Yutes, because in these cases, this is what I call category 2, therefore the kibble is the primary function. And in this case, in a case where the primary function is now not able to be done because it's broken, so the main function of kibble is bottle. If so, the whole thing becomes Torah. It's no more used, cannot be used anymore for medris, either under the rule Mepanisha botel or ikka or botel atfela. This goes with the shit of the chachamim at the end of the previous perik, because the main function of kibble is broken. Therefore, the tefela function, the secondary function of tashmish for yeshiva, also comes bottle, and the whole thing becomes bottle and tahir. Of course, if you were to be re-miyachadit for yeshiva, it would then from now on be a kabel tumah. So that last bit of the Mishnah was the category 2. Don't forget we had category 3 mentioned at the beginning of the Mishnah, where you got 2 equal functions of medras and kibble, and each one is as important as the other. And therefore, if one becomes bottle, the other one just stays, the other tashmish, the other function stays intact, and the kli carries on being kabel tumah because of that function. And then that's Mishnah Aleph. We're going to Mishnah Base.